Welcome to Games from Folktales, a podcast that mixes historical research and tabletop role-playing settings. I'm your host, Timothy Ferguson. This week, a brief dip into Kunz's Curious Lore of Precious Stones for Rock Crystal and Ruby. Rock Crystal, let's get straight into Kunz. Quote, the popular belief in his time as to the origin of rock crystal is voiced by St. Jerome when using the words of Pliny, although not citing his authority. He says that it is formed by the congelation of water in dark caverns of the mountains, where the temperature was so intensely cold that, while a stone to the touch, it seems like water to the eye. This belief was evidently due to the fact that rock crystal was so often found in mountain clefts and caverns. Symbolically, it signified that those within the portal of the church should keep themselves free from stain and have a pure faith. A griffin imagined on a rock crystal produces abundance of milk. We'll end the quote there. Note that Jerome and Pliny see rock crystal as a sort of ice. There is an ice cave in the Transylvanian Tribunal where the ice remains hard at high temperatures, and it's used in the training of monster slayers. The main source of rock crystal in Europe is rather pleasingly in the Alps, but it turns up in small amounts in several other places. We may assume that the version of the art of magic carved into rock crystal and used for rubbings that is found in the Alps uses local stone, not, as I thought, magically created rocks. The rules give crystal, related to water 5, quartz invisibility 5, rock crystal healing 3, ice 3, clarity 4, clairvoyance 5, and I'd suggest ice should probably be higher. Ruby. Rubies are found in what's now Macedonia in Mythic Europe. There are quite a few sources in Asia which let stones trickle to the west. Garnets and spinels are also often identified as rubies in medieval Europe, so you could argue that what medieval people thought to be true is true, and this changes the garnets that are found in the real world, Ruby Bay in Scotland, into actual rubies. Time for some Kunz. The glowing hue of the ruby suggested the idea that an inextinguishable flame burned in this stone. From this fancy came the assertion that the inner fire could not be hidden, as it would shine through clothing or any material that might be wrapped around the stone. If cast into the water, the ruby communicated its heat to the liquid, causing it to boil. The dark and star rubies were called male stones, the others more especially, however, of the lightest hue being considered the female stones. All varieties served to preserve the bodily and mental health of the wearer, for they removed evil thoughts, controlled amorous desires, dissipated pestilential vapours, and reconciled disputes. The many talismanic virtues of the ruby are noted in the 14th century in a treatise attributed to Sir John Mandeville. I'll just step out for the moment to point out that Sir John Mandeville was a hoaxer. Moving on. Here, the fortunate owner of a ruby is assured that he will live in peace and concord with all men, that neither his land nor rank will be taken from him, and that he will be preserved from all perils. The stone would also guard his house, his fruit trees, and his vineyards from injury by tempests. All the good effects were most surely secured if the ruby set in a ring, bracelet, or brooch was worn on the left side. The beautiful and terrible figure of a dragon, if found on a ruby or any other stone of similar nature and virtue, has the power to augment the goods of this world and make the wearer joyous and healthy. Ruby in the core rules has shape and material bonuses of courage 2, battle wounds 3, blood, bonus to effect 3, leadership in war 4, fire-related effects 6, and Star Ruby has conjure control occult entities 5. Your saga may vary.